Hey everybody, it's Justin Fraction here for Total Pro Sports. To talk to you about Major League Baseball on this particular video. It's the middle of summer. It's 1,000 degrees in here. There are hot lights on me. There's no air conditioning right now because we're recording, but you know, that's how this place is. So that's how we'll do it. The Major League Baseball landscape has changed a ton throughout history, thanks in large part to some mega blockbuster deals. We obviously think of the infamous Babe Ruth trade to the New York Yankees, for example. But some teams have learned that the best deals are sometimes the ones you don't make. Some GMs came so close to dealing away a superstar, but it fell through at the last minute. You already know who I am, so today we're going to talk about 10 Major League Baseball trades you didn't know almost happened. Toronto Blue Jays land David Wright. The New York Yankees Mets star third baseman could have been a Blue Jay. Former Mets GM Steve Phillips offered David Wright to the Blue Jays in exchange for veteran outfielder Jose Cruz Jr. in 2002. The Blue Jays front office refused to give up a starter in Cruz for Wright, an underachieving prospect who looked to have no future in the pros. Well, Cruz left after the offseason. Wright became a 7-time All-Star and 2-time Gold Glover. It was the Jays' loss, and the Mets barely escaped a disaster deal. Miguel Cabrera joins the Angels. The cap-strapped Florida Marlins were looking to deal away young slugger Miguel Cabrera in the 2007 offseason. In 2013, Lyle Spencer of MLB.com reported that the Angels had proposed a 5-player package for Miggy, but the Marlins also asked them to pick up the remaining $7 million on Dontrelle Willis's contract. The Angels refused. The Detroit Tigers swooped in and made arguably the biggest trade of the decade. The Angels are now wondering why they didn't just pay $7 million to build up a lineup around Cabrera and world-class star Mike Trout. Alex Rodriguez ships up to Boston. Though Alex Rodriguez was a shining star with the Texas Rangers, the franchise was looking to cut payroll and move out his massive deal. After the 2003 season, they nearly dealt him to the Boston Red Sox. Star outfielder Manny Ramirez and future ace pitcher John Lester were going to head to Texas. But the MLBPA put a stop to the trade, believing it'd be unfair for A-Rod to take a reduction in his salary. A-Rod would then get traded to the New York Yankees, and yes, he'd win a World Series there in 2009. But Boston won championships in 2004, 7, and 13, so we'd like to think that they were A-OK with not landing Rodriguez after all. Tim Lincecum heads north. No offense to the Toronto Blue Jays, but perhaps they should try to learn how to close a big deal. Before he was a 3-time World Series champion and 2-time NL Cy Young winner with the San Francisco Giants, Lincecum was just another young pitcher. In the 2007 offseason, the Blue Jays nearly traded all-star hitter Alex Rios to the Giants for Lincecum. San Fran's front office played it safe and opted to keep the freak instead. Smart call that gave them a dynasty. Albert Pujols to the Expos. The Montreal Expos franchise relocated to Washington in 2005. You would feel like things would have been different if legendary slugger Albert Pujols was playing in Quebec. And believe it or not, it actually came close to happening. In 2000, the Cardinals dealt prospect Fernando Tatis and another player to the Expos for Dustin Hermanson and Steve Klein. But the Cardinals originally couldn't decide if they should have dealt Tatis or Pujols. They wisely chose Tatis. Pujols is only by far the most dominant slugger of his era. A surefire Hall of Famer, and he led the Cardinals to a pair of World Series championships. Smart move on their end. Pedro Martinez heads to the land. The 90s Cleveland Indians were the greatest dynasty that never was. So many future Hall of Famers. 2 trips to the World Series, no titles to show for it. If the Indians closed down a deal for Pedro Martinez, perhaps he would have led them to a championship, or 2, or 3, or 4. The Indians nearly dealt a prospect and rising star pitcher Bartolo Colon to the Expos for Pedro Martinez, but GM John Hart told the Indians to hold off on the trade. Martinez then went to Boston and led them to a World Series title in 2004 for Cleveland. Randy Johnson flies to Toronto. Hey look, another big trade the Jays nearly pulled off. Looking to defend their World Series championship in 1993, the Blue Jays were looking for one more weapon. They were in talks about landing star outfielder Ricky Henderson and pitching phenom Randy Johnson. With the deadline looming, the Jays were working out a deal for Henderson, but negotiations became tough. They then worked out a deal to land Randy Johnson from the Seattle Mariners for Mike Timlin and a prospect. But at the last minute, the Jays worked out a deal to acquire Henderson from the Oakland Athletics instead. He'd helped Toronto win a World Series, so they don't regret much. Johnson stayed with Seattle. Again, the best deals are sometimes the ones you don't make thing applies here. Mariano Rivera becomes a Tiger. Mariano Rivera is the greatest closer of all time. 13 All-Star appearances, 5 World Series championships, and 652 saves, a career record that will last until the end of time. In 1995, the New York Yankees were targeting Detroit Tigers pitcher David Wells. They were willing to deal the rookie Rivera in exchange for Wells, but the Yankees decided to hold off, believing that Rivera's pitching delivery was getting better and better. And man, was hanging up the phone ever a smart call. Barry Bonds to the Braves. 7 NL MVP awards, the all-time home run king was 762. Yep, Barry Bonds could really have led the Atlanta Braves to a ton of World Series championships. In 1992, the Braves nearly worked out a deal to acquire the superstar slugger from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Atlanta was set to send 3 players highlighted by pitcher Alejandro Pena to the Steel City for Bonds. But Pittsburgh manager Jim Leyland convinced management to back away from the trade. They did just that, but Bonds would sign with the San Francisco Giants in the offseason. The Braves have won a World Series title in 1995, but there's still no denying they could have won at least 3 more with Bonds. Joe DiMaggio for Ted Williams. Joe DiMaggio is one of the greatest New York Yankees of all time. Ted Williams is by far the greatest player in Boston Red Sox history. The Pinstripes and Bo Sox are the greatest rivalry in sports, but yet they almost did business, major business. In 1947, Red Sox owner Tom Yawkey and Yankees GM Lee MacPhail sat down for a meeting and got drunk together. A deal was reached to send DiMaggio to Boston, with Williams heading to the Bronx. The trade never happened, though. The Yankees wouldn't include future legend Yogi Berra in the trade. Smart call. Berra led them to 2 World Series championships. In the comment section down below, let us know what other Major League Baseball trades almost happened. If you liked the video, then like the video. We'd really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that. And don't forget to tune into Total Pro Sports for more cool videos every single day.